bad again. I'm trying to go over this one more time. Facebook claims that there's some technical difficulties. So I'm going to try to go over this and see if y'all can get the points. It's about our origins. Nasal Nun, within our own language. So, as I left off, so in Sirius C, Ptah, the overseer of time, brought this seed or this gene to the Orion's belt, the middle star, where they lived for millenniums before they came to the planet. But before the seed can come to the planet, you follow? The planet had to have a certain amount of oxygen, which was, the planet had to be 24% oxygen. Then the seed was brought to the planet by way of a Vulcan deity, what we know today as a dolphin, through the process called in vitro fertilization, where they're able to take a certain gene from one species, insert into another, so it can be brought or delivered to another environment. Kind of like an example would be like if you're in a plane. So the plane would be the dolphin. The people inside the plane would be the genes. So if you're leaving from America to Africa, that's the means of transport, because you can't fly to Africa by yourself as a being, even though they tell you you have wings. And your body is designed aerodynamic to go this way, because when it gets cold or it's too windy, what do? You put your head down so you can cut the wind. So your body is designed to travel this way. You follow that? So this gene was brought here to the planet, right? These genes was volunteered by other beings within that system to use your genes to germinate the planet Earth. So over time, these genes diversified and multiplied and became what you know as amphibians, where they're able to live in water and they're able to live in land, right? So while they had gills within the water, they became what you call known as mermans and mermaids, or what they term sirens, S-I-R-E-N-S. You follow? That's a female species. You follow that? So eventually, over millions of years, eventually they adopted what you call lungs. They're able to breathe the air from outside of the water. Remember, 24% of oxygen before they're able to send a gene to the planet, as taught to us by the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York. So what happened, eventually there was a tsunami, right? This is divine intelligence at work. Our ancestors, Ptah, the opener of time. So the tsunami was sent. When the gene first came down, is in what you call Antarctica at that time, that we term Egg Island, because at one time Antarctica was fertile. It was also swampy. So these genes was originally there in the water in what you call the Atlantic Ocean. Then with the tsunami that happened, it pushed the gene further inland to a place known as Okavango in Botswana, the swamp of Okavango in Botswana. So they were pushed there, and the gene diversified and multiplied there while it germinated. Eventually these beings came to land, the female first, and they acquired lungs because they can breathe, but two different separate species came from that, what they term as Australopithecus. You follow that? Or you have your pygmies and you have your Watusis. The pygmies, right, or we call the Sans people also, they were male, 5 feet 4 inches, the female 4 feet 5 inches, and the Watusi was what you call, the females were 9 feet 9 inches, and the male was 9 feet 8 inches. You can find this information also in a book called The Origins, authored by Dr. Malachi Z. York. You follow? Eventually, the pygmies, or the shorter people, mixed in with the taller people, and they produced what you call the Wadabi of today. Eventually, this Wadabi people, they migrated to what you call the Sudan and became what you call the Dinkas. So on the planet Earth now, as explained to us by the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Z. York, is that there's 9 species to the Nagaru race, or the Afaf Reye Ka'u, the Africans. You follow that? Which are 1, the Sans of South Africa, the Wadabi of Niger, the Afar of Ethiopia, the Nimba of Namibia, Then you have the Nabandi of Congo, the Maasai of Kenya, the Iwe of Ghana, the Dinka of Sudan, and the Fulani of Mali. So these are the 9 species that existed on the planet too. And you also have your Neutrinoids. These are different people just mixed in. And after Mukasu or the Adamites, you follow, as explained to us by the master teacher, Dr. Malachi Zero, is that there are 6 species where you get the word Vikings. V1 in Roman numerals is 6, and you got kings, the Vikings. That's a whole other story that we can get into another time. You follow that? So, while on the planet were these different beings that came by way of a Vulcan deity, today known as a dolphin. The word dolphin comes from the Greek word Delphis, and it means womb. If a dolphin was supposed to stand upright and stand up, you will see that it seems that it has a womb. Just like a woman who is pregnant, you see she has like a curve on her stomach resembling a dolphin. Why dolphins are so attracted to human beings. I don't know if you've ever seen the video where there's a young Nubian girl, she was in an aquarium and she kept on using her finger going back and forth, and a dolphin was following her like this. Dolphin was just following her back and forth. So she had a connection to nature. She had a connection to dolphin because our genes was transported here by way of a dolphin. You follow? So there's some kind of mixture that happened where the dolphins still know that connections to us as Africans or human beings. Where we came from Sirius C, which collapsed. From there the gene was transported to Orion, right? The center star. And then from there, the genes was, after millions of years, the genes was transported to Earth within the waters. Eventually, the tsunami happened. We got pushed further inland. Then we acquired lungs over millions and millions of years. So they came in this dolphin, right, or incubator. You follow that? By a process called inverter fertilization. That's being done now as a science on the planet Earth. So these are sciences that we had thousands of years ago. So the intelligence amongst us already knew that the Sirius C was about to collapse. So they created an evacuation plan. Just like the scientists of today, they claim that the sun, you follow, has another 5 billion years before it burns out. But our record states that the sun itself is 24 billion years old. Because the planet itself, this planet Earth, was twice the size. But it got smaller based on an incident that happened with Nibiru and the Meldic and the Meldikians, because originally it was a water planet and different beings resided in the water. You follow? We go back to your Genesis story about the serpent, where the serpent was able to speak, or the serpent came on land. The Sirius, right, or the star system can be found in the Quran, chapter 53, verse 49, under the word Ash-Shareh. It can also find in the Holy Bible, Job 9:9, as the chamber of the south. So the Bible knows about Sirius constellation, the system, and the Quran also records it. Then you also have beings known as the Dogons, who also record the Sirius constellation and its existence. They talk about beings called Nomos, who will come from the water, you follow, and teach them and give them detailed maps as far as how Sirius B goes around Sirius A before the advent of what they call our telescope, or the Hubble telescope, which was only discovered in the concept came into existence in 1946. And they only observed, the first time they observed the Sirius B or the Sirius constellation was in the year 1862 by a man by the name of Alvin Graham Clark. He's the one that first observed it. You follow that? But the concept came out also of observation that exists in 1844. Just to give you some date that you can check out. But us as Africans, right, we knew these things before it being observed. Because you have in what you call Egypt or Khufu's pyramid, there's 3 chambers, but there's 2 major chambers I like to speak of, which is the king's chamber and the queen's chamber. The king's chamber, Osiris's chamber, was directly aligned to Orion's belt based on a ritual they would perform called the open the mouth ceremony. You follow that? Then you had the Queen's Chamber that was directed to the Sirius star constellation, also known as Seb2 and also Septet, where you get the word September from. So us as Africans was very aware before the advent of telescopes, you follow that? That the Sirius star system existed and our origins, while we create certain ceremonies as the open and mouth ceremonies, so that the soul, right, of Asar could ascend back to where it had came from, which is proven by scientists right now. According to them, somebody had passed away and has some way of calculating like the spirit if it went somewhere else, and it said after a person died, their spirit ended up in the Andromeda constellation. Things that we've been teaching for years as taught to us by Dr. Malachi Z. York. So Dr. Malachi Z. York is a person with the actual facts. And he has so much information to give us, but it's not out of reach, it's out of trust. We're stuck on actual facts, but he still haven't unleashed or given to us yet universal facts, right? Things that you can't find in the university. So with this, or us being on the planet Earth at this time, as mentioned how we became from aquatic creatures to land creatures. And while we're here, different beings raped us as pygmies, you follow that? Or had intercourse with us as these different beings, be us in Sudan, because in Sudan, these reptilian beings were also known as river angels. You follow? As mentioned before, in the West, they were known as Nomos by the Dogons, because the Dogons actually migrated from Egypt to Mali in the 4th century. And they also brought the knowledge of the stars with them where they're at. So you had the Dogons, so the priests amongst them was called Hogons. You follow that? So this is just a small additive to give to you, because YouTube was saying there's some form of technical difficulties. So presently, at this day and time, there's 9 species to the African race, right? Which are the Sans from South Africa, the Wadabi of Niger, the Far of Ethiopia, the Nambandi of Congo, the Maasai of Kenya, the Iwe of Ghana, the Dinka of Sudan, and the Fulani of Mali. So that's our species, or 9 species that existed today. And you also have like a lot of neutrinos we call new beings, because that we're new beings. So this is some of the information that has been explained to us by Dr. Malachi Z. York. And for those that missed this from the first one before it got cut off, there's various agencies, right, that's on the planet Earth that came together to give the sun its birth date, or the lifespan it has, which they say is it has 5 more billion years. So some of the agencies that came together, right, was NASA, the European Space Agency, Harvard's Smithsonian Center of Astrophysics. So these bodies of people decided to unite to give us information that we absorb as if it's actual facts. And us as black people can't see that we should unite to free ourselves. They can unite to give us information to feed the world, right? But we can't come together and realize we have to unite so we can free ourselves mentally. That's the only problem that we have, is that we're not unified mentally, because anywhere the head goes, the body goes. But you need right information. Thus, Dr. Malachi Z. York is here with the right information, the right knowledge, the right wisdom, and the right understanding, which lead us to sound, right reasoning, which is our spiritual science that's based off experience, evidence, and reason. Why do?